Hey guys, welcome to the Troy Gramling podcast. As always, I love to be able to hang out with you, especially when we have a guest and talk about life, love, leadership, talk about the things that make life successful. And in this series, we're talking about health. We've talked about mental health. Today, we're going to talk about physical health. I am super excited because we have a very special guest here with us, Dr. Issa. Welcome.
Hi, Troy. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your practice there.
All right. So I was born in Managua, Nicaragua, in Central America. Came to the United States in 1980. Went to middle school here in the United States, in Miami specifically. Went to Florida State undergrad, Maryland med school, and then went to Temple University for my residency. I then came back to South Florida in 2001. And South Florida has changed since. I started my practice in 2001. I've been in practice since. And I'm the father of 4 lovely kids, 3 girls and 1 boy. I'm still practicing, and I love what I do. I love medicine. I love my practice, and I love taking care of patients.
That's awesome. Especially when you think 20 years, over 20 years.
22 years exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
And so I didn't know you were at Temple University?
Yes, I did my training. I did my internal medicine training at Temple, and I did my fellowship in geriatrics at Temple.
Wow. Now, what years was that?
So that was between 1997 and 2001.
Now, is that the Temple that I know from basketball? I mean, is that the same Temple?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Now, did you go to any of the games?
Oh yeah, I did. I got to see some games. I was lucky enough to see some good Florida State football, and then and I see some of the people here doing the spear, and then off the top, I mean, and then at Maryland I saw some good basketball too.
Yeah,
and then at Temple, yes.
You know, Maryland. It was Georgia Tech. But anyways, yeah, Temple was George Chaney, or well, not George. What was the coach? I don't know if he was there when you were.
No, he was in there when I was in that.
All right. Anyways, I talk about why you're here. Anyways, when it comes to, a lot of us are intimidated, I think, when it comes to a physician, when it comes to doctors.
Mm-hmm.
What's something about physicians that we don't know, but that we should know?
Well, the first thing is that we're all humans. We're all human beings. We wake up in the morning the same way you do. We ask for the same coffee that you do. We put our pants the same way that you do. So we're humans and we're in the same level. The other thing is that we, for the most part, doctors are problem solvers. So when you come to me, the first thing that I think of is I need to solve their problem. So that's the one thing that I think differentiates the non-physicians from the doctors. We try to fix problems right away. And the other thing that I think people should know about us, yes, we did go through a lot of studying. We actually went through 12, some cases 16 years of schooling after high school. So it is a lot of years. So there is a lot of doctors think that schooling makes them not better, but a little wiser than the general population that didn't go to school there. So that's one of the things that you need to get past that.
That's good. That's good. So just a little side note here, which of all those years of school, what was your favorite class and what was your most unfavorite class?
So the worst class that I ever took was biology, actually, Biology 101. And actually I took it in my freshman year of college, and I almost actually changed my major to finance. My favorite class was at the time was genetics. Because I guess it was 1994, 95, when there wasn't too much DNA around, so we didn't study that much versus genetics now. Yeah.
When I was in school, I went to a small high school, so I took, if we took part 1,
mm-hmm.
then we had to take part 2. It's just, so when I went to college, I thought it was the same way. So I took zoology 1, zoology 2, and my major is in education.
Right.
My coach wasn't there. I had a counselor at the time. What have you learned about people? Because you deal with people all day long, and like you said, you're a problem solver really for people. What have you learned about people maybe that's kind of surprised you from going from when you were doing all the schooling to actually practice it?
So one of the things is that people are, one of the misconceptions that we have is that when somebody doesn't talk or somebody's quiet, we think they're snobby or or they think they know more than us. One of the things that I've learned is that everybody, a lot of the people get intimidated by us, right? By physicians. They pick up, they see all the diplomas or they see all the letters behind your name. So they're a little bit intimidated, but they're people also. And you have to get past that. You look at them and they're people that are the same as you. They might not be as educated as you. So you have to just get into them and talk to them and ask them questions that they feel comfortable with. We're all the same. The one thing that I've learned is that I've seen all walks of life now, from the mechanic, down the road in Hollywood to, pastors to presidents, so it's been a really good experience for me in the last 21 years. And I see that every human being is the same, except there is some challenges in the personality of the person. So for example, they'll come into the room and they'll just give you short answers. That's because they're intimidated, not because they think they know more than you. So that's the one thing that I've learned, that just because a person is quiet or looks different or is different, they're not different. We're all the same, but they're not answering you in an assertive way because they might not feel confident. You might be intimidating them. So you got to step it down a little bit.
So as, we'll get to in a little bit, you do a lot of mission work. I know your faith is important to you as well. And as long as I've known, you've always had a great bedside manner, as they call it. Has your faith played a role in your ability to connect with patients?
Yes. And I think that one of the things that as you read the Bible and don't quote me on this, obviously you know more of the Bible than I do, but when we read the Bible, we read about the scriptures and we read that, how humbling, Jesus was, right? So when you have a doctor that comes in and just stands in the corner of or in the front of the bed and tells the patients this, and this, it might intimidate the patient. Look, one of the things, Troy, that I've learned is you need to be humble with the patient. The patient, you have to tell the patient because the patient is looking at you as a pilot to direct them on what to do, right? Because the patient doesn't know what to do at this point, but we need to be humble about it. We need to sit down on the table or on the bed next to the patient. When we were rounding in the hospital, you grab the patient's hand and you talk to them and you tell them that this is going to be all right. Try to explain it to them in layman's terms. The one problem we have in the medical world, I think as doctors, we assume that patients understand us, right? Because we talk amongst doctors all day long. So we'll talk about the AST, ALT, hepatic function panel. But then when we go talk to the patient, we go, oh, your hepatic panel was great, so you got to go home. The patient doesn't know what that means. That's Chinese, right? Yes, things have gotten better with Google, but it's not the same. You sit down and you say, look, the hepatic panel is an enzyme that is released by the liver, and then the liver works in this way, and blah blah blah. The patient feels comfortable, and they gain the confidence, in you, in medicine, and I think it gives us better bedside manner. And I think faith has a lot to do with it, not only the Christian faith, but also other religions. I've seen other doctors from other Muslims that are very good bedside manners because according to them, their prophet was a very humble person.
Right.
So yes, I think faith has something to do with it.
Now, have you seen over the years, so, with 22 years, because patients go, and this may be true or not true, I guess what I'm asking is, where the doctor, the physician knows best, you know what I mean? He or she said it, so I'm going to do it. Have people become more independent along the way? Have you, where it's like, well, I don't know, or I don't trust the doctor as much, I guess.
Definitely. The new generation, when I say the new generation, I think from the patients that were born in the 2000s, right? These are the patients that we're starting to see now. The 19-year-olds that are going to college, or they're getting physical because they're going to go to the armed forces, or they're going to go to the police academy. They come in and you tell them, hey, you're, this is off a little bit. And they really don't trust you. They really want to look it up. can you write it down so I can look it up? So yes, there has been over the years. Part of the problem that we've had is that when we go in with treatment options, right? Whether it's for attention deficit disorder or psychiatric disorders that we pick up at 14 years old, or GI issues like gastroenterology issues, the patients nowadays don't trust us as much, but they trust a Google or a Bing or a search engine. And they basically tell you no, but Google tells me that I'm supposed to take this 3 times a day, So, and yes, I have seen a difference. I think
so. You're competing against Google and Bill Gates.
Well, now it's and the worst thing is that now we're going to compete against artificial intelligence.
Right.
I mean, I had a patient yesterday tell me she's a programmer. She's 27 years old. And she has a urinary tract infection. I said, well, we're going to try this medication, X, because there's no resistance to it. And she says, well, I looked it up in artificial intelligence, and that is still not FDA approved for treatment in the United States. So you have to use it with and I said, well, that was my next sentence. You have to use it with preventative. And that's, so yes, the challenges of ChatGPT, artificial intelligence are there, and they're real.
Wow. And then you have so many experts out there on, all the different social programs.
Absolutely. And even with the medical students now. So I'm an assistant clinical professor for Florida State. The Florida State College of Medicine sends me 2 kids over the summer. And these kids over the summer, rotate with me. And this guy, Ken, who's my student, tells me, Doc, that paper that you wrote in college, I can, in medical school, I can write it in 30 seconds. And I was like, he got on his chat bot and he basically wrote, he told chat to write a 1,000 page essay on DNA gyrase. Okay. And this thing wrote it in 45 seconds. Now, this was a whole semester that it took me to write this. Wow. But that's technology. And listen, we have to change with technology and we have to embrace it. So we have to learn, and we have to stay ahead of the time and treat these patients and change with them. So we have the very educated with technology, and then we have the non-educated too, that you actually have to hold them by the hand. But it's great. I love it, and I love it.
Yeah. And what do you think is the key to that? Because I know not only when it comes to being a physician, but really in every walk of life, so many people, after a decade or so, lose the passion for what they do. Why do you think even after 20 years, you still have this passion?
I've been lucky and I've been blessed that since I started in 2001, I was doing hospital rounds. I was serving the Hollywood area. It was a very underserved area. I had very good patients, patients that I was able to see the difference. Patients that were able to, thank me and thank me in a way that it made an impact on me. I'll never forget, there was a patient by the name of Emma. She passed away already. And I took care of that lady. I would go to her trailer from over there on 441 before those were knocked out. And I would give her injections for her infection. And she loved it. And she was so happy. And I would take my kids, they were small, and she would bring them dolls and Barbies and stuff like that. And it made an impact. And I think that those things, you don't win every case, but when you win that case once in a while, that difference that you make on that one person makes a difference in your life. And it makes you want to get up in the morning and go to work. The other thing that I think made a difference on me was my upbringing. My mom was very, very, very giving and very charitable. She actually, I grew up in a poor country, and we were fortunate enough to be wealthy. My parents, my parents used to give a lot, and they used to take me to the poor areas of Nicaragua where we learned, and where I learned at an early age that there was poor people, and we could make a difference if we gave back to society. So it was rewarding, and I think those things stay in your mind and your brain, and you're able to use it in life.
Well, I appreciate your generous spirit. I know anytime that I see and hear about the things that you're doing, it's always challenging to me and inspirational as well. I know you were telling me you do is it weekly your program or monthly that you do to the medical program you do?
I do it weekly, every Wednesday morning at I go on at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's a Spanish radio, and it actually serves a lot of the Spanish population. It's very popular. Apparently, it has like an audience of 1.5 million listeners a day. So it is very popular. We go into topics. It's a little funny, but we do cover topics that are very important. And a lot of people DM me on or send me Instagram questions or even WhatsApp me to the station and ask me about these diseases or these things that I talked about, and they end up getting advice at least,
Right.
And so I'm very appreciative of that. I like doing that, and a lot of times they end up in the office visiting me. And
What channel what station is this?
so we're on 94.9, Enrique Santos show.
All right.
So yes, every Wednesday it's Pregúntale a mi doctor. Ask my doctor.
There you go.
Yes.
Ask my doctor.
Yeah, ask my doctor.
So we'll ask my doctor if you.
Maybe you could come one day. Ask my pastor.
I just need a Feliz Natal. Well, that's Portuguese. So let's talk a little bit about that. What do you see is the number one problem people face when it comes to their health?
Neglect. The neglect of patients not making the time to go to the doctor. I am seeing patients right now that when I ask them, when was the last time you saw a doctor, they tell you 12 years.
Wow.
There's no excuse here, Troy. In 2007, 2008, the Accountability Act came in, which we know as Obamacare, and it gave every American the opportunity to buy insurance, whether they have income or not. Mm-hmm. They can buy insurance. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you can buy insurance. It is a very political subject, but you know what? It has helped patients get insurance. So everybody has access to it. When you look at the first 1,000 colonoscopies that we did, when Obamacare was, what started in my practice, and I was one of the few physicians in Hollywood to take Obamacare. And the first 1,000 colonoscopies, basically we got 38 that were positive for polyps. 38 of these individuals could have ended up with cancer within 5 years. Now, if these patients would have been not proactive, okay, and would have not gone up to go to the office, not done the effort to get the colonoscopy, these patients could have paid later on with chemotherapy, the suffering that comes with the illness, the cancer, the agony, and everything that comes with that. So I think the number one problem is neglect. The number one problem is not checking your cholesterol, not wanting to check your blood pressure, not wanting to know, whether it's that we don't want to know or that we're just lazy as a society, that we don't want to go to the physician or the doctor, your primary care doctor, to get checked out.
Wow. Because like you're saying now, there's not really an excuse for that.
There's not an excuse. And there is so many, it's one blood draw. One blood draw will test you for everything. We'll test you for lymphomas. We'll test you for your kidneys, your cholesterol, your heart. There is so many tests that we can do with one blood draw that we will know everything about you. And you're good for the next 2 years if you're a young person from the ages of 18 to 32. And then from 30 to 40 yearly exams. It doesn't take that long. I think that we as physicians have to do better also in giving these young individuals, young professionals or young people access to seeing us also. I think we have to do a better job in opening on Saturdays. I think we have to have more access or give these patients more access to come in, do their blood and do their tests. Because we can save lives. Prevention is the best way to save lives in this.
Because if someone out there listening and doesn't know, for example, with a colonoscopy, if you go in and you take care of the polyps, you are protecting yourself from what could be cancer. In other words, it really does do something. It's not just a
it's tests. It's just not a test. And and it's only one of the few tests that we can do that we can diagnose and take care of the problem right there. It's not like you're going to go in, close, then come back in. No, you see the polyp, you snip it, you send it to the lab, you know the result, and you're good for 5 years. Okay, so it is not only the diagnosis, you're doing the test, but you're also taking care of the patient. So it actually does save your life right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know in my own case, with the stents I had put in, I wasn't feeling right. I was a young guy at the time, I think 34, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was unhappy with the way I felt. I did the stress test and then I did the angiogram, and that's where they found it. And the cardiologist at the time said, I wouldn't have had a heart attack. He said my heart would have exploded. So it saved my life. That's being proactive as opposed to just waiting to see what would happen.
And also the thing that I got to tip my hat to you is that you're very good at your follow-ups. You know that what is going to exacerbate this or make this worse or close these stents is not taking care of your health, right? So you do a good job of taking your medications. You do a good job of showing up at the appointments. You do a great job of following up with this. So I think that this is very important, and this is a very good example. And I think that if we just take, 2 hours a year to do this, we could save a lot of lives, and it'll make an impact. It'll make a difference with patients, in the whole general population.
Wow. I guess heartbreaking in a way to think that the capacity to save lives is there, and we just don't make the time for it.
Exactly. We have the tools. We have the tools. We have the physicians. We have the insurance. We have the technology. We live in the best country in the world when it comes to medicine or access to medicine, and we need to take advantage of it.
That's good.
Yeah.
What about when it comes to medication? I know a lot of people are tempted to take their medicine until they feel better. You know what I mean? And then that kind of just, kind of become their own doctor at that time.
Yes, and you see that a lot with the cholesterol pills. Patients come in with a cholesterol, and you tell them, listen, I'm going to have to put you on this cholesterol medication. I'm going to have to start you on this. And you give them the reason. Now you have to convince a patient they have to take it. They come back 3 months later. They say, well, my cholesterol is great, doctor. Do I have to take my medication? Well, Mrs. So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, your medication, your cholesterol is like this because you've been taking your medication. But you didn't tell me it was a lifetime thing. This is, it's a disease. So one of the things that we need to, teach patients is that there's nothing wrong with taking a medication every day. This is a disease. This is an illness. This is something that can create or give you a stroke. So please continue taking it. A lot of times it happens with blood pressure. Blood pressure is called the silent killer. So people have high blood pressure. They take the blood pressure, right? We take their blood pressure. They feel okay. Their blood pressure is normal. They stop taking it. And then they come back in and they have a blood pressure of 170 or 80. For example, I had a gentleman this morning call me on my cell phone, 8:30 in the morning. He said, my blood pressure is 170 over 88. I said, when was the last time you took your blood pressure pill? Oh, well, I took them right before I went on vacation. But I felt great. He said, so why did you check your blood pressure? Oh, because I was having a slight headache. So I'm like, I'll see you in my clinic today in an hour or so. So he actually showed up, and he had not filled his medications in about a month. Honestly, one of the worst things that you can do is when you're on cholesterol medications, if you zigzag, or meaning if you start cholesterol medications, keep taking it. Don't stop it and start it. Don't stop it and start it, because that creates more plaques and more plaque buildup. So it is not healthy for you to do that. The same thing with blood pressure pills. Blood pressure pills, your body will rebound, your blood pressure will go up, and then it's really hard. You're chasing your tail.
Wow. Yeah, I think so often we hear the stories of, the medicine and the issues and I feel better and all that. We don't hear the other side because those people don't survive often. You know what I mean? They're not there to tell their story. I know, because I remember when I started taking cholesterol medicine, after the heart and all that, and hearing those same kind of, with the liver and all those kind of things. And I've been doing what I'm supposed to do. And that's, goodness, I don't know how many years that's been. You know what I mean? And we did blood work not too long ago, and my liver, you know what I mean? I'm fine. You know what I mean? In the sense of that medicine hasn't caused me issues.
Honestly, Troy, I've seen I can tell you I've seen over 10,000 patients now in my lifetime. And I've had maybe 4,000 patients, around that on medications, like the one that you're taking with statins. And I've never seen a liver failure, honestly, but I've seen more strokes and more heart attacks than I've seen liver failures or problems with it.
Wow. And that's just so important for people to hear, because I think the other side, because they're magnified, often gets heard, and the side of the impact, the positive impact and life-saving impact that doing the blood work and taking the medication that's needed can happen in somebody's life.
Absolutely. And it is very, it's imperative. And I think as physicians, we need to bring that point and tell patients, look, what Google tells you out there, right? The liver failures and the disasters are not, that's a 0.01% that you heard about. The one case that gets out is the one case that you hear. So patients are like, no, I'm not going to do this because people are dying of liver disease, or I'm not going to do this because people are dying of kidney disease. So it is very important for you to listen to the doctor. I mean, in this case,
Right.
Troy, most doctors, and I can tell you, most doctors that I've known, and almost all doctors that I know, don't want to harm people. We don't want to put you on a medication that's going to harm you. We try to do good. Whether our bedside manner is the best or not, whether we have our faults or not, we try to give you the best advice, and we try to give you not only the best advice, but we try to help you. We try to help people. We don't want to harm patients. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to put you on a medication that is going to create liver failure or give you liver failure if there's something that outweighs the risks.
Oh, that's good. What about, we hear a lot too about antibiotic, and stopping too soon, or is there truth to all of that, or talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, there is a lot of truth about that, and especially in the Hispanic population. And I hate to, call out on the Hispanic population. A lot of times the grandmother finds some antibiotics that she has, and she gives it to the grandson, takes 2 pills, feels better, and that's it. What it has done in the last 15 years, and we've seen it with biograms, it's created a resistance. So antibiotics work in your body when you have a bacteria, antibiotic goes in, the bacteria doesn't recognize the antibiotic, and it kills, obviously, the bacteria. In the cases where the bacteria that somebody got or somebody that you gave me was resistant to the antibiotic, then that antibiotic is not going to resist. It's not going to work on this because it has a resistance. Because that person, let's say, didn't take the antibiotics, the bacteria that I'm passing to you now knows that antibiotic. When you get the bacteria in your body, and I give you an antibiotic, your antibiotic is not going to help you. So that's how resistance is passed from person to person. Now, the big issue with this is that we are seeing it now, and there is a problem with urinary tract infections. We're seeing it in this community actually right now, where women are getting urinary tract infections in the E. coli, in the Pseudomonas coli that we're seeing as an infection it's resistant to most of the pills that we have out there.
Wow.
A lot of times we have to hospitalize these women to give them IV antibiotics. So yes, it is a big problem. How do we stop this? Number 1, don't share your antibiotics. Number 2, if we give you a prescription for 7 days, finish up the 7 days. Follow the instructions of the bottle. Finish the bottle of antibiotics. That way your body doesn't create a resistance against those antibiotics. It is not only responsibility for yourself, but it's responsibility for the community, because we are creating a lot of resistance against these bugs.
Wow. So I didn't realize that. I may take all my antibiotics, but if you don't take yours, then the strain bacteria or whatever I get.
Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. We just had one of our pastor's wives actually in the hospital with the very thing you were just talking about.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, right now, I just got granted a research study on one of the resistant urinary tract infections. And one of the new antibiotics that we're trying out is one of the antibiotics that we don't have out in, it is out in the market, but it's being co-used with another medication because we want to use it, but we're only going to use it on individuals that we know are going to take the medications, that we can account for the medications, and we are not going to miss a dose, not only miss a dose, but give it away to somebody else.
Right. So it's a serious thing.
It is, and it's going to become worse and worse over the years, I guess, as people share more antibiotics. That happens a lot in colleges where you see pneumonias that are resistant to certain antibiotics, because college kids tend to be the ones that don't finish off antibiotics more than the older patients. But yes, it is a problem, and we need to educate. As physicians, we need to educate the patients. The pharmacists need to educate the patients. We need to tell them, finish off your antibiotics. Don't share your antibiotics. These are your medications. Don't share them.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, that's really good. I think helpful. Well, it's hard to believe it, but we've been going for 30 minutes.
Wow.
I appreciate you being here very much, and thank you for sharing. Encourage everybody to check out Ask the Doctor. What is it, 94?
94.9.
94.9 on Saturday mornings?
Wednesday morning.
But anyways, check that out. And again, thank you so much for being here. And guys, I want to encourage you, if you haven't had that checkup, go have one. I promise you it's not that bad, and it really could. This is not just talk. It could save your life. And it would well be worth it. We'll see you next time right here on the Troy Gramling podcast. Check it out. Video versions on YouTube and all the other streaming platforms. You can find the audio version. God bless. We'll see you next time.